Welcome to Uncle Monday. Oh, last night I was there walking hither and thither across the face of the earth, and I went to an establishment, and in that establishment there was a statement on the wall by Gandhi, and it went and said this. It said, "Be the person you want the world to be." Now, on the face of it, that's a great statement, isn't it? Be the person you want the world to be. In other words, don't be a hypocrite. If you want to see the world being whatever that is, then be that person. But that is the issue, isn't it? What is it that Gandhi actually wanted the world to be like? What was his picture of the world? And that's what God goes and says. If you want the world to be like this, be that person. But that goes and brings about the question, what way do you want to see the world? Apparently, when I was in India and visiting, Gandhi isn't quite the hero that we think he is. And many people from the different various backgrounds in society were conversing with me because I was asking them what did Gandhi mean to them because I went to visit the museum there. And there were those from a Muslim background who were not very pleased with Gandhi because of his pro-Hindu ways, and in fact that he went and displaced them and put them out of the country. In fact, it was he who was the one who wanted to just kind of push everybody up to the north, and hence Pakistan came about. Or at least that's the simplistic understanding of those geopolitics. The other part of it, though, was that there are Christians who were going, well, he wasn't really the non-violent person that the West seems to think he is. There's actually another side to the man. And they were going, we need to look at him and look at his character of who he truly was. I thought that was very interesting. But then, when I was chatting with the Hindus themselves, they were going, well, especially the more liberal Hindus, they were going, in regard to Hinduism, he really was someone who enforced the caste system and thus kept a lot of people subjected in poverty in India. And I thought these are very interesting statements that are being made. And so, what really was the world that Gandhi wanted? That's the question. I don't know the answer, nor am I going to go and presuppose what that answer is, but I'm sure there is an answer of exactly what that world is. But that got my brain thinking. So it did. And here's what got me going and thinking about it was this. Paul went and goes and says, you know what? Follow my example as I follow Christ. And I've spoken about this before. But you see, what I like about that statement is Gandhi is saying, be the person you want the world to be. But the question is, what's our vision of the world? Paul goes and says, follow my example as I follow Christ. And so what he's saying is discern from my life what it is that I am doing that is actually following Christ, and follow that example. But the stuff that I am doing that is not of Christ and is not following him, don't do that. And how can I say that? Well, he's the very one who went and said himself, I do the things that I do not want to do, and the things that I want to do I do not do, and all this sort of stuff, right? And so the point I'm making is this. Paul goes and says, look, I'm setting myself up here for you as an example as I follow Christ. Only look at that part. The other stuff, don't do that. Now that gets me thinking, so what sort of world then did Paul want? Because here's the truth. We all want to go and shape the world. That's it. So what sort of a world do you want? And the Christian, for the 2 millennia that have been on the planet, have all been trying to also shape the world. And yes, true, they have been using, as best they know how, Gandhi's method to be the person that they want the world to be. But how do we do that? That is the question, is it not? So Paul tells us to follow Christ's example. But what about Mary, the mother of Jesus? What did she go say? She went and said, do whatever he tells you. Aha. So that's what we have to do. We have to do whatever Jesus tells us. And is that not what Paul was trying to do with his life? Follow Christ's example. What is that then? Where does that take us in regard to shaping the world? Oh, that's right. That's right. That takes us back to the teachings of Jesus. And Jesus goes and says what we ought to do is that we ought to go and love the Lord our God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love our neighbor as ourselves. Now, we like to major in on the second one because we go and say, well, that just gives us a reason to just, wipe every sin under the carpet and just pretend it doesn't. We just love people for who they are. We love. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the transformation of the world. One person at a time. How? By our example. How? As the way that we go and do what Jesus tells us to do. How? By understanding what it is that Jesus went and said. And Jesus went and said that we are to love the Lord our God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love our neighbour as ourselves. And you know what the problem is with that statement? That statement got Jesus Christ killed because he lived that out. That's what he did. And you know what? Because he was someone who did what was good and honouring and pleasing to God and gave God glory, yeah, do you know what happened? They killed him for it. And you know what has been happening ever since? That's right. They kill Christians for the way, they're really the ones that are dedicated to following Christ, for the way that they go and live their lives. Isn't that not what happened to the apostles? Is that not what happened to Paul? Absolutely. Is that not what has happened to Christians down through subsequent generations since? Yes. And so there is the challenge. Okay, so the vision is this. Live out your life in a way that you want the world to be. But what is it the way that we want the world to be? That's the question. For you and me, if we are followers of Christ, that is that it will be like the way that God intended it to be. But here is the challenge. What way does God intend that world to be? Yes, he intends that that world will be a world where we love God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and that we love our neighbour as ourselves. But do you know what? Look at the statistics of 2022 for the Republic of Ireland, and what do you discover in this latest census? Oh, that's right, as a friend went and sent to me, very encouraging. Sarcasm was noted. But the thing that they're saying is that religion has diminished. There is over 40% of the population in Ireland now go and claim to have no faith. Now, I would question that, to be quite honest. But my point is this. It looks like as Christians we're not doing a great job, is it? In transforming the world into the way that Christ would want us to have it. We're not loving our neighbour as ourselves, but maybe more importantly, we're not loving the Lord our God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength. So here's the thing. Have we, as a result, inherited a world that is what it is today because we have not been the person that we would like the world to be? So I've gone full circle here. I want to leave you with that thought. What way do you really want the world to be? And then, how is it that you are living out that? What example are you giving? Can you say what Paul, follow my example as I follow Christ? Can you say that you're someone who goes and listens to what Mary went and said and you went and did whatever Jesus tells you? Are you someone who even knows what Jesus is saying? They are tough questions for us today, but questions that nonetheless we should go and think about and answer, because maybe after all, the world that we have is the world that we've actually shaped it to be. Think about it.